Okay, so generally speaking, there's two major sites that people use for blogs. They use Blogger or WordPress. I mean, there are others. Some people make Wix websites because you have the opportunity to blog on there. But these are two major ones that are used for writing specific blogs. Blogger, if I show you my Blogger one, it looks like this. So each of these on here is a post that I've written on here. And then these are different pages. Your pages are very static. They don't change. They're always going to have that information on it. Your posts are what you change. It's what you're going to write about each time. So this is like a diary entry, essentially. And they get dated about when you wrote them. So that's your blogs. WordPress is very similar. So if I show you my WordPress site here, again, static pages along the top, and then these are all the blog posts going down here. So each one of these is a blog post. So whichever one you choose is entirely up to you. There's no reason for one or the other. I personally prefer WordPress, but there's no reason for that in particular. When you are using WordPress, it will ask you to create a site. So you won't have to add a new site, you'll be creating your new site. You'll give it, if we go back through the steps, sorry, I've already done this before, that's why I'm going back. It will ask you how you want the layout to look. Once you've made your choice, it'll then ask you can choose one of these or you can skip for now. So this is the layout that's actually going to be on each of the pages, so we'll go with that one. And then you would give it your domain name. Once you've done all that, I'm just going to go onto my site here. You're then going to get this information. So statistics shows you what's going on your site. That's fine. Plan, we can ignore. You've got your blog posts. So essentially, you can go into each of your blog posts. You can always edit them. You can view them. You look at the stats. You can delete them. You can also look at comments that have been added to your blog post. When you want to add a new blog post, you just go to add. You'll get a page like this where you can add your title. You can add your information. If you've got a YouTube video you want to add, you just add the link in here and the video will be embedded. Some of you might want to go crazy and fiddle with the HTML. That's absolutely fine. You can if you understand the code behind it. So basically everything you want to do is going to give you the information from here. You can block quote places, you can write paragraphs, you can add images. So that's all you need to know. Down the left hand side when it comes to blog posts, there's two things you need to think about, and that's your categories and your tags. So what a category is I've decided on these categories. You can add a new one. So you start off with 0 categories. And I decided these are going to be the main things that I'm going to be talking about. Your tags are what's actually in that post that's specific to that post. A great example could be one of your categories, if you were doing a food website, one of your categories could be cooking. One of your categories could be baking. And a tag here could be nuts, chocolate, cookies, because you were doing a whole post on baking chocolate cookies. It still goes under the category of baking. It's got to do with baking. That's his major heading. But these are the sub tags. The reason they come important, I will explain now to you. So when I go back on my WordPress, somebody could just search for anything to do with that tag, and then it helps just draw the information to what it's exactly about. Now, if this is something you want to share, especially in later times, and say maybe university, you might want to be able to allow people to look through your posts and say everything to do with learning, or everything to do with life thoughts, or everything to do with one of these that you've tagged here. The bigger they are, the more you've written about them. So I'm just going to go back onto here, and we're going to, so that's where you would add them. If you go back, so you can add your tags there. I'm just going to go back. When you edit your piece, again, you can decide to add tags. I've added uncategorized, but you can also add your category and your tags here. So you can do that at any point in time. So that's how you would add a blog post. Adding pages are static things that are going across the top. It's quite likely you might not need them. I use them because I've got information that I want to stay on my site permanently. So that's more for permanent information. You can customize your themes. it allows you to customize your design. As far as I'm aware, yeah, this is for a premium plan, so you can't really use that. You've got your site identity, so what you're called, and what your tagline, that's this line that appears here, and that's your name here. Do you want it displayed? You've then got your colours and backgrounds, so they give you a colour palette that you can choose from. Fonts, header image, that's that image here. You can add a new image, so this is my personal picture that I've chosen to add, or you can choose one they've got. Menus, so that is where you want your menus located. That's these if you've got pages that would go across the top. Widgets, it's what widgets you want. So I want blog statistics and people to follow my blog on the main, and then I want the categories and tag cloud. So those two that were down the side that showed what categories things are and what tags I've given them wouldn't have been there if I hadn't added a widget to it. And then if you go back, this is what your front page is going to look like. Is it a static page or does it show your latest posts? I would recommend your latest posts. So we go back, so we looked at themes, you've got menus. If you look down here, you've got your settings. One thing I would always recommend in your settings is when it comes to you would always ask your author. So I would say I would like that. And also down here, comment author must have a comments here must be manually approved. I personally I would always recommend that, so that you manually approve comments, because you don't want comments to be waiting around that aren't appropriate comments and you didn't know they were there. So I would always say you have to manually approve them. If you go into your WordPress admin, here you get to do exactly what you're doing before, but when you go into, for example, the comments, now I've got one awaiting approval that I could go in. Right, so I approve this, so I would click on approve so I could approve that comment. And so that information has now come to me. You can change your appearance, so you can look at your themes here. So this is where you could choose one of the themes that you wanted. If you weren't happy with the current theme you've got, you can select a theme from here, as long as it's free. You can customize, you can add your widgets. So this is another place where you can change and do the adaptation to everything that you have. And basically, that's the very basics that you will need to be able to make yourself a site in WordPress.